Everyone, hello YouTube. Um, so this is my second take of this. I tried recording this just a little bit ago, and I went like several minutes in and realized that I didn't have my mic on. I just recently did a Windows update, and it reset a bunch of shit. So I've been dealing with that for the last 23 minutes. But now we are gonna finally discuss AEW's Blood and Guts here. Um, This is definitely a AEW rendition of War Games. Basically the difference being that it has a harsher stipulation for the end, where people either have to basically submit, or they say they give up, or they're done. You know, they lose. They're willing to lose. So with that in mind, that's kind of what the match is about. This event was on AEW Dynamite. No, not it wasn't on a pay-per-view. This is legit AEW Dynamite TV show that they have weekly on TBS, and instead of being on a bigger show like War Games is for WWE, they give it to you on their weekly show. And yeah, so you will, if you haven't watched it yet, it was a pretty enjoyable show in my opinion, and we're gonna kind of talk and break it down a little bit. Um, this was definitely, yeah, if you wanted to see blood and guts, you definitely got to see it here. Um, Albeit, I think it really does help push AEW to stand as the alternative to what WWE is currently offering, and uh overall, like I said, just it was an enjoyable show, and we're gonna start talking about the women's blood and guts match here. So this was the first women's blood and guts match that they've ever had. They hadn't had one prior to this for whatever reason. Um, Mostly because I kind of like the idea that usually AEW doesn't cater to the idea that, oh, there should be a women's match and a men's match for everything like WWE does right now, which annoys the piss on me because it really makes for longer, not like more drawn out, longer shows that have stipulations that don't mean much. Um, so with the women blood and guts, they have on one team they have the heels Megan Bain, who, if you haven't seen her recent, like if you haven't seen some of these girls, I'll give a brief description. Megan Bain, pretty tall, pretty pretty good looking talent that looks like could be a formidable champion in the future. Marina Shafir, former for um, former tag partner of Ronda Rousey, and was in WWE NXT for a time. She's part of the Death Riders. You got Mercedes Moné, the former Sasha Banks, who is also the women's TBS champion. You got Julia Hart, Sky Blue, and Thekla of Death Triangle. I think that's, or what they call themselves. They had a name to them. Triangle of Madness. Okay, Triangle of Madness. They took on Tony Storm. Me and God, I said her name earlier incorrectly. Um, Let me see if I can. Mina Shirakawa. Yeah, I said it earlier. I don't know why my brain just kind of farted. But Mina Shirakawa, Chris Statlander, Jamie Hayter, Harley Cameron, and Willow Nightingale. Basically, the who's who in the AEW women's division as it is right now. Chris Statlander is the women's AEW champion. Also keep that in mind. So you got the TBS champion, Mercedes Moné, and Chris Statlander, the AEW women's champion. Make sure you keep that in your head as we discuss this match. Sky Blue starts off the match with Willow Nightingale. Very interesting opening with Nightingale having a trash lid with a smiley face, and Sky Blue coming in with a kendo stick wrapped with some barbed wire. Not very well, might I add. This Bleacher Report gives the show an A plus because they really enjoyed the fact that the women just gave it their all, and they did for the most part. I feel the match was a little sloppy. I would give it an A minus. It was still pretty fun for the most part. The crowd was hot for it. Um, within like because the first two girls fought for the first 5 minutes. Before that, even eclipsed. Sky Blue was crimson red with a pretty deep cut and was bleeding all over the place. Whether she did to herself or it was a legit opening, I wasn't 100% sure. I think it was her trying to um, do a blade job, and she kind of hit herself pretty good. Um, so basically, there's some things that are going on in the women's division. They got an upcoming a tag tournament. Like there is like they're all wrestling in a tag tournament right now for the women's tag team championship that has been introduced recently, and there it's the whoever wins this tag team tournament becomes the inaugural tag champs. So you're gonna basically there's some implications of that within this match. Also, there's implications on former rivalries and current rivalries with another one being Mercedes Monet basically going after Chris Statlander to try and collect her AEW Women's title at Full Gear coming up, which we'll highlight more a little bit further. But yeah, so Sky Blue, pretty beat up RA, busted open. The advantage went to the heels, if I recall. So Sky Blue ended up getting Julia Hart to come in, kind of help her out, beat up Willow, and then Harley Cameron came out, um, did her thing. Also, keep in mind while I'm watching this, this show was on regular TV, so you're gonna have commercials, which made the timing of the people coming out very weird if you were watching it and not seeing the commercials. Which I ended up watching it of a version of it without the commercials, so it was kind of weird seeing intermittent pauses of like where people were in for longer times after like you were waiting for the timer to go off because of commercial breaks. So it was kind of weird to see little dip periods where no one came out for a bit here and there because of those well placed commercial breaks. Um, but yeah, they there was some pretty crazy, interesting things that happened here. Um, basically, I think Thekla had a belt strapped to her boot. She was whipping some people. Hater had um Hater did not bring in the barbed wire kendo stick. That was not Hater. That was as I said earlier, that was Sky Blue. Um Hater found it later in the match when she was in there and started using it, and that barbed wire kept getting caught on everyone's like clothes and just the bodies of people when she was hitting them with it. Um as I said, there was some sloppiness in this match, which annoyed me to some degree. And some safety concerns. Like I get you want to try to make it seem like the women could be as violent as the men. I get that you want to try to show violence and get people to buy into the fact that this is an alternative. This is where, you know, shit goes down compared to like other places. Um, First of all, Jamie Hayter came out with a bag of thumbtacks, right? So she comes out with a bag of thumbtacks, which is what they incorrectly got wrong. Um, they were like, "Oh, yeah," they don't even mention the thumbtacks here. Yeah, so there was quite a bit of stuff going on, so I could see why they would have like misplaced certain details. But Jamie Hayter comes out with a bag of thumbtacks, but instead of like putting them away for a spot or whatever, she just starts swinging at people as soon as she comes in, and in the process, the tacks just rip out of the bag and fly across the ring, which that that's not safe. I don't think. Hopefully, I don't think it bothered anybody, but like, yeah, whatever thumbtack spot that they had planned or whatever, I don't think that was the planned spot, but they basically screwed that one up. And then there was another one where I might, if I could find it, I'm going to show you. But there was a real bad hit with Megan Bain. I think it was Megan Bain. But either way, like it happened to so many women in this match. Sorry, Jamie Hayter. So Jamie Hayter's laying in the corner. They put a trash lid on her face. Okay, trash lid's on her face. She can't see. Okay. And then I'm pretty sure it could have been Megan Bain, could have been someone else. I'm going to look for this clip on X here. Yeah, Jamie Hayter. So let's look up Jamie Hayter. Yeah, see, they said she came out with the kendo stick. No, she came out with a bag of tacks that she just kind of ripped open. All right, let me see if we can find. Oh, yeah, it was Megan. Let's see if we can find a. All right, so yeah, if you guys can see that. Yeah, if you guys see that. Alright, that's enough of that. So, like, Jamie Hayter can't see the chairs fucking coming, okay? She can't see the chairs coming. And fucking Megan Bain launches this fucking chair at her face. Like, ouch. Like, this is not safe at all. This is unreal. I don't care if I got a trash lid in front of my face or not to make sure the chair don't do damage, or to make sure the chair doesn't do too much damage. I mean, that's still gonna hurt like hell. And she threw that with some force. From what I heard, Jamie Hayter ended up getting a couple of chipped teeth after this spot. She was laying down on the ground for a good while after this spot, and I was like, this was unsafe as hell. Just totally like uncalled for. So like that's what annoys me sometimes in AEW, because sometimes they go a little too far, or they don't fully make sure someone's safe in some of these matches. Where in WWE, if they, like, say for instance Cody and Kevin Owens in the ladder match, they double checked and triple checked with each other to make sure they were all right, and making, trying to ensure that they're not like severely injuring each other, and making sure the spots were going to work the way they were supposed to work as much as possible, even though they tried some really risky shit. Here, yeah, Megan Bain did not care at all about Jamie Hayter's health, and Jamie Hayter could have been dumb enough to be like, hey, I'll be fine, just throw the chair at me. But she might not have thought Megan Bain was going to throw the chair that fucking hard. I don't know. But, yeah, Statlander showed up in the match with a pool cue, snapped it on Megan Bain's back, which was a good target to use for that, because Megan Bain's a pretty tall, monumental bitch to deal with. Mercedes Moné came out at some point, and there was a spot where, because they had all her championships laid out on the table beside the cage. And let's talk about that cage for a moment. Throughout this match, you see the cage and how it like sits beside the ring or along in the ring. They I think someone, whoever the engineers that built this cage, didn't build it to proportion because they had to actually put extenders on the edges of each side of the ring, like on the far edges of the ring. So like on the back side of the ring against the facing the announce table, and then on the other side of the ring facing the entrance ramp, they had extenders, like just platforms, ring extensions, basically, to meet the edges of the cage. So I think, yeah, like I said, I think someone screwed up the engineer screwed up the length of the cage because, yeah, that I did not see a reason or why those extenders had to be there other than to fill the gap outside. So, because the idea is they're supposed to be inside the ring, they're not supposed to be outside the ring while inside the cage. It's not Hell in a Cell, you know. So, anyways, back to the belt spot. The CEO had all these belts out, and she did a cool little spot where she grabbed all the belts in and out, grabbing belts and throwing them at all her teammates, so her teammates could use the belts to beat the shit out of the other team. Um, so Maria Shafir was one of the last women to come in, and basically she like targeted the AEW Women's Champion Statlander, threw her out of the cage and out the open door as she entered, and then revealed a bed of nails, like the bed of like uh, screwdriver nails, um, and made Chris Statlander take a bump on that. I was like, oh god. Every time I see anyone take a bump on that motherfucker, I wince. Like that thing looks like it would hurt like hell. Um, but yeah, there was another cool spot where it was a callback to the Hollywood ending because I was like, where have I seen this spot before? And that's where I saw it. Tony Storm basically wrapped tape around her hands backwards and put it inside a bucket where there was a shattered champagne glass, and she got glass all over her taped hand, and just started wailing people in the face with it. We even got to see Puppet Monet. Harley Cameron brought out Puppet Monet, and immediately Mercedes Monet did not like Puppet Monet and got rid of it to reveal brass knuckles hidden in Harley Cameron's hand. And she got punched in the face with those knuckles. There was a spot where the champions, like I said, they're kind of at odds and ends with each other. Statlander and Monet. They kind of took each other out of the match through a table spot. The same table that had all the titles on it, yeah, but basically they took each other out with the table spot, elevated table spot, which made them kind of out of the match. But like I said, there was several other ladies basically bled in this match. Just they didn't bleed as bad as Sky Blue, my god, but there was some blood and guts between all these women. The heels got the win when basically after the champions took each other out, they locked the door of anyone that was part of the faces, and all the faces were down except for Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa. And they're very close to each other. Like one would say they're lovers in a sense, but they're very very close friends. And they're tag partners for the tag tournament. They are basically most of the heels held down Tony Storm while other heels held down Mina Shirakawa, and Mega Bane was taking one of Mercedes Monet's titles by the end and whipping the shit. These are heavy fucking titles, mind you. Now, hopefully they were using one of the lighter titles instead of one of the heavier motherfucking titles. But she was taking that by the end of the title and whipping the shit out of Mina Shirakawa until Tony gave the word to quit. Like she couldn't watch Mina just take any more of a beating, and the face is lost. So that was how the women's blood and guts ended. There was some, like I said, it was more or less for it being on cable television. This was worth it. This was awesome. Because yeah, they didn't hold back anything. They were willing to beat the shit out of each other and be sloppy um with some of the work they did to each other. And yeah, they beat the shit out of each other. The only thing I didn't like about this match overall was the composition. Like, I hated the fact that in order they wanted to have the women, like the women on the roster wanted to have their own blood and guts match. I get that, but like I hated the fact that they basically were like, okay, all these women have issues with one another. These women have issues with one another. These women have issues with one another. Let's just make it a heels versus faces type of match, and they all just kind of work together and fight each other in a big old war. It's okay in theory, but in hindsight, I just really wish there was more cohesive, like like I guess even in a pro wrestling universe, like I wish it made more sense that as to why they all get banded together to fight within Blood and Guts. That's kind of my only real like takeaway. I wish there was a little more like team spirit between both teams, but it was just more like, well, we're gonna work together because we hate this team or we hate these girls and they hate these girls. So it's just that's kind of the as strong as the unity was between both teams, really. So it was what it was, but it was enjoyable. So we move on. There will be the men's match to end the night, but before that, we got a Falls Count Anywhere match where we got Hangman Adam Page against Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs. Powerhouse Hobbs. This match was exactly what it needed to be. Did not need to be a drawn out long affair. Hangman is a little beat up from events past. He's also dealing with Samoa Joe. Hobbs is part of the Ops, which is Samoa Joe's faction. And it's nice to see Hobbs get a little bit of spotlight here. Powerhouse Hobbs, I feel, has had a bad break. Like, I just feel like his career has not gone the way he's wanted over the years he's been with AEW. He's had a lot of bad breaks, mostly with injuries, and it's just kind of cool to see him here. They did pretty much make it a worthwhile Falls Count Anywhere match, and this match didn't overstay its welcome either. It wasn't a long drawn out affair where there's a million kickouts or where they overdid it with like constant finishers, shit like that, which is synonymous with AEW. But it's funny that I say that because I'm starting to see that a lot more in WWE, and it's almost to the point where AEW is acknowledging that and is getting away from that, which is kind of fun. Unless it's like a really like feud ending match, they're like getting away from that. I think a little bit in AEW. They're cognizant of what WWE is doing, and WWE. I feel like sometimes WWE is falling into habits or like tropes that AEW had been doing, and then they start doing it on their own, thinking, "Oh, that's what the fans want." And then AEW's like, we're just gonna stop doing that. WWE's gonna do that. We're gonna stop doing that. But anyways, this match was cool. There was a few interesting spots here I liked. Like, I mean, obviously, I had a pretty fair thought that Hangman was gonna beat Hobbs, and they give it a B plus. I would pretty much give it a B plus as well. Um, It was a slower paced match, which was fine considering it's in the middle of two cage matches. But they had cool spots, like I said. There was one that made me wince. They Hobbs had the stairs pulled out, and basically he had Hangman in his arms, ready for like the world's strongest slam, Mark Henry slam. So he was standing on the top of the stairs while holding them, And then as he goes to bring Hangman down for the slam, he falls off the stairs as he brings him down. And Hangman just hits the fucking stairs like a fucking thud. Oh my god. It sounded brutal. I don't know if it felt as brutal as it sounded, but my god, it did the trick. Did the trick. So yeah, they ended up eventually brawling into the crowd. They got into some upper echelon where up into a little bit of the higher seats. Eventually over one of the entrance ramps. And it's over that entrance ramp where Hangman basically knocks Hobbs off the entrance ramp and off the top of where the seats are at above the entrance ramp, and he falls onto a table full of electrical equipment, and you see sparks fly, and you see like the lights like go off and on, like they kind of do an effect. And he goes down and he pins Hobbs, gets the win, and which was cool. It was a good finish. It was a fun match. It was a nice little respite in between the cage matches. Very well thought out. There was another cool spot on here, I believe, also where where they were standing on the and it was a nasty bump Hobbs took here, but Hobbs was standing on the edge of the announcer table, and it looked like he was gonna like powerbomb Hangman onto the table while standing on the edge of the table. Well, or no. He was standing on the edge facing away. He was facing away. And he had Hangman in a powerbomb position. And trying to lift, he was going to lift Hangman up, but then Hangman actually back body drops him off the table. And Hobbs, from a higher elevation, falls and lands on his ass onto the floor beside the announcer table. And it looked like he took a stinger to his ass right there. Like that looked like it hurt like hell. But yeah, like I said, it was a fun brawl. It was good. It was enjoyable. It was what the show needed to break up the monotony of the cage matches. They had a little scuffle at the end where Joe and Shibata tried to take advantage of the cage and Page all by himself, but Eddie Kingston Hook, who have been helping out Page recently and dealing with the ops, come out, save the day, and Hangman and Page declares a steel cage match for him and Joe at Full Gear. So I'm kind of curious at how they're gonna what they're gonna do with the regular cage match for the title match, but I'm looking forward to it. And Full Gear is not this weekend; it's next weekend. So, like I said, I'm kind of curious as to what kind of magic those two can work up in a cage match. You know. They had a Ricky Steamboat segment for him and FTR, and I heard Ric Flair was supposed to be part of this as well because they were acknowledging legends within Greensboro or that had worked Greensboro. So, you know, Sting, Ric Flair, Steamboat, and whoever. And yeah, this was a little rough. I they gave the segment a C minus. I don't know if I'd give it that. I don't know if it was that rough, but it was like I think people expected to see Ric Flair, and he was advertised, and he just I think yeah, I think he was announced, but he was never he never showed for the segment, or you didn't see him around. Word has it, I think he was hurt and just wasn't feeling very well and just did not want to partake in the segment. But either way, like it was the segment was a little rough. They were trying to like it was a little drawn out. The promo back and forth was a little drawn out. I don't know if Steamboat just couldn't quite remember his lines or if they just kind of like Steamboat's never been Like they even say here, Steamboat's never been the best promo. That's not what made Ricky the Dragon Steamboat like a legend in people's eyes. So like, I don't know what exactly they were trying to do here, but I think Ricky Steamboat talked way too much in this segment, and the segment just took a little way longer than it should. But Bandito or Brodito or yeah, Brodito came out. Brody King, Bandito, they came out and saved the day, saved Ricky. Well, Ricky even got some chops in against FTR, which was cool. It was nice to see Ricky, you know, do his thing. But the segment could have been a lot shorter, a lot more compressed. They do a little segment with Don Callis' family, telling the Young Bucks that they should join the family next week. You know, they beat down Jurassic Express for him. Kind of, they've been. Don Callis has been really growing the family, and he knows that the Young Bucks have been down their luck. Lately, it's been. I think this has been the push of trying to turn the Young Bucks face. Because in all honesty, people want to root for the Young Bucks, honestly, and the Young Bucks are a very talented team, and at this point in their careers, like they probably should be more celebrated than probably hated, and you know, it'd be cool to see them get a little more love than what they are. So, um, I'm not exactly sure what route they're gonna go with that. But I guess we'll be seeing here in the next week or two. Men Blood Guts. So you got Death Riders. And for those of you who are not sure what the Death Riders are or are unaware, the Death Riders are led by Jon Moxley. They are composed of former Blackpool Combat Club members Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. And they also have Pac, the Bastard Pac, and they also have recent addition Daniel Garcia, which I wasn't 100% on board with Daniel Garcia joining them, but like the problem with Daniel Garcia in AEW is that every time they try to give him some sort of push, he gets lost in the shuffle. Like to me, every time people get behind Garcia, he loses his steam, and I don't know why that is. So I wonder if this is a way to kind of try to keep Daniel, like, get some heat on Daniel Garcia, make him hot again, make people like give a shit about him, because he has such up and down, like up down start stop in AEW, and it's kind of annoying. So they're gonna take on the mostly of what makes up the conglomeration. Mark Briscoe, Roderick Strong. Well, you got Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly of Paragon. And Kyle O'Reilly, he is also part of the conglomeration, which is also basically a group made up of Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, and they also have Darby Allin working with them because Darby Allin has his issues with the Death Riders, as per since the last time we talked to AEW. So basically, they showed a little bit into this match, and the match started with, of course, Darby Allin against Wheeler Yuta, who is genuinely just hated by the audience. This match kind of starts a little slow, not a whole lot of crazy shit going on, and then they show, like, after a couple entries, Briscoe is taken out in the back. Like someone like went after Mark Briscoe and beat him up. So the match turn order kind of got swapped a little bit, but like there was basically the Death Riders for the most part was dominating the match. When Briscoe finally did come out, because he was the last one to come out for his team, obviously because he was hurt. He was hurt and attacked. He came out with weapons in tow and doing the crazy Mark Briscoe thing that he did. This match was nowhere near as good as the women's match, in my opinion. Like I said, it was a bit of a slow start, and The weirdest thing about this match is that the faces are filled with technical wrestlers and wrestlers that are very over the top with their gimmicks, like Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and um, Darby Allin. Like, it makes sense that Mark Briscoe, Darby Allin's in this match, but like the other three kind of felt weird that they were in it. But Orange Cassidy can do what he needs to do in any given match, but like even Paragon, just Paragon being in it was kind of weird. But there was some crazy shit that happened in this match. Um, Kyle O'Reilly was I mentioned Sky Blue being bleeding like a stuck pig. That was Kyle O'Reilly in this match. He bled everywhere. It was crazy. The Death Riders ended up having Gabe Kidd help out at some point, and during this match, he basically him and Pac, because they eventually get the door open, and like I think it's funny because they always lock the cage door, but then the door gets opened somehow. Where here, Mark Briscoe used the bolt cutters to open the lock on the door. During the women's match, they have like openings within like the columns that's holding the cage up. They had some like real small openings that the smallest women actually for the heel side crawled through to get to the outside to open up the doors, which was kind of cool. But yeah, so like Pac and Gabe Kidd, they grab Darby Allin, take him all the way to the top of the fucking stage, to the entrance ramp. And this entrance ramp, this area, they go up to a higher rise, and they're like 15, 20 feet off the ground. And on closer to the ground, Gabe Kidd lights up 2 tables on fire. Like literally, these things are covered in lighter fluid. They're on fire. And Pac literally does a press slam with Darby Allin. He picks up Darby Allin, and this is after Darby Allin's been getting his ass kicked throughout this match. Claudio Castagnoli throughout this match had been picking up Darby Allin and just tossing him into the cage left and right, even on the side where then he would just fall down and like get stuck between the cage and the ring. Like it was insane. Darby Allin gets picked up and just tossed onto the tables and ends up taking the fire spot, which was crazy. We had there was a spot at the top of the Mark Briscoe ended up to the top of the cage with Wheeler Yuta, and he did the J Driller on chairs to they got chairs up there. They did a J Driller to Wheeler Yuta up there. The match kind of was a little drawn out though, based on, like I said, it just seemed like they were waiting for everyone to show up to finally have to do anything fun in the match. John Moxley, of course, brought out a fork and was forking a lot of people, which is how Kyle ended up super bloody. He got real. I don't know if it was a fork or the way he forked him, but I think it got worse when Moxley brought in like leftover trash from the women's match, which, by the way, during the women's match, there was a full-blown mirror that was used, like a big full-blown mirror that was used and smashed on someone's head. And I think Toni Storm got smashed on her head. I think that's what happened. But either way, there was remnants of that mirror in that trash they brought in, and he was using that on O'Reilly, and I think that cut him up even more. The baby faces had the advantage, but it didn't really matter. Like, it didn't seem like they had the advantage throughout the entirety of the match. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there was some other spots that was real, like, insane. I know basically there was a comeuppance. There was a point in the match where the baby faces found their comeuppance and they delivered it to the Death Riders. And it was a point where Kyle O'Reilly gets into a nice little technical uh like a little technical match with Moxley at the end, trying to gain the upper hand on him. And eventually he locks an ankle lock and makes Moxley tap to an ankle lock. And they've been doing this thing lately with Moxley because of how they had to hurry up and finish the Wrestle Dream match with Darby Allin, and Mox had to hurry up and tap out to end the match to get the match done before time. They ran out of time for the pay-per-view. Um, they've been kind of doing this whole like thing now where they've been alluding in the storytelling that maybe Moxley isn't as strong as, or as badass as he thinks, because it seems like he's willing to tap out to the most mundane shit, and he had been like over the last couple weeks leading up to this. He tapped out to, I think he tapped out to Roderick Strong, I believe. Prior to this, I think that's who he fought, right? Yeah, Strong defeated Moxley. Yeah, he tapped out to Roderick Strong. So like him constantly tapping out to his opponents, I think is it makes it, and this group is big enough now. And if they do bring Gabe Kidd on board full time, I could see them using Gabe Kidd as the leader or new leader of the Death Riders, and he just overthrows Moxley. The other way I could see this going is basically I don't see Daniel Garcia being the new leader. Maybe Wheeler Yuta, maybe, but maybe Claudio. I see Claudio being like, Claudio's been looking a real like a real badass motherfucker. Or they have Marina be the new leader, and she gets rid of Moxley. Which they've really evolved and grew her character to be such a really unique badass, and I think she could pull it off, which would be kind of interesting to see, honestly. But yeah, Moxley has been trying to make sense of that finish from Wrestle Dream and incorporating it into the storyline, and I'm kind of glad that they did, because like it makes the Wrestle Dream match not seem as awkward now that he's been doing that. Moxley's always been one to make sure things make sense, wrestling sense, and that's what I love about Mox. Like, and he's willing to take a bullet if he has to in order to make that fucking happen. So overall, like I said, this match wasn't bad. It was a little drawn out, little less exciting, and a little less fun than the women's match. They gave it an A minus. Yeah. I would have given this match a B. Like I said, there was some cool shit that I mentioned, but like, um, overall, I just really think it didn't really have like the flair that the women's match had. That, I mean, sure, the crowd wasn't as hot for this match as it was the women's match, but like, to some extent, I just feel like while the women were kind of like all in one, like there was different factions of women hating one another, you can at least sense that between the women. Where here it's just like, well, we are tired of the Death Riders. We're just gonna fight them because Blood and Guts is coming up. We're gonna do that. We're gonna fight them. And of course, they had to do things to make the Death Riders, to make the conglomeration care a little more about the Death Riders, to get them to fight and go after the Death Riders. But like, sometimes it just, you can sense leading up to an event where they're trying to push agendas or try to make the story fit or try to get somewhere to get from point A to point B. So when you get at point B, it made sense that you came from point A, But at the end of the day, this was overall was an enjoyable show. I had a lot of fun with it. Especially when you're getting it for, like, I say for free. I mean, you're paying for a cable service, but like if you have a premium subscription on HBO or you're watching on TBS, you got to see this. You didn't have to pay pay-per-view. Like, this was pretty that's a pretty cool deal. Overall, like I said, I'm kind of curious what they do for Full Gear. We do know about the title match between Samoa Joe, Hangman being in the cage. We know Chris Statlander is going to defend her title against Mercedes Moné. Also, they advertised Burdito defending their titles against FTR. That will probably steal the match of the night. I'm putting it out there now. That will be match of the night. They also have Kenny Omega coming back to team up with Jurassic Express to take on the Young Bucks, and forget who else is part of that match, but it's like a $1 million match or something like that. I think maybe they got Josh Alexander as part of that match. I don't know, but somebody it's somebody in the Don Callis family. I forget who, but I would love to see them add like something with Okada, maybe it was Okada with yeah, we're gonna look it up. Full Gear 2025. Yep, okay. Okay, yeah, they are with Josh Alexander. They're gonna do a casino gauntlet match for the inaugural AEW National Championship. Yeah, they're introducing another title, which, don't get me started on how saturated the title scene is for any given company. It's too many titles, way too many titles. I don't know why there needs to be an AEW National Championship. Like, they literally just combined the International Championship they had with the Continental Championship. So I thought they were trending in the right direction by merging some titles, but now they're bringing in another title. And they're going to have Kyle Fletcher go against Mark Briscoe to defend the TNT Championship in a no DQ match. That should be good. Mark Briscoe in his element, fighting in in no DQ matches, weapon matches, anything goes matches. Kyle Fletcher, rising star. This looks like to be a pretty awesome card. It's really building up to be a fun card. They got some other matches possibly getting figured out for like the pre-show. I don't watch the pre-show or whatever, the tailgate show or whatever. I don't watch that. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how else they round up the card and seeing this entire the show in its entirety next week. So, but anyways, I think I rambled on enough about AEW for now. Hopefully, if you didn't catch the show, go back, try to catch Full Gear, or not Full Gear, but Blood and Guts. It was definitely fun, and I guarantee you, WWE War Games might have bigger names going in for their matches for the event, but like, I don't know if their War Games matches are going to be as fun as what AEW offered. Let's put it that way. But yeah, War Games is going to be coming up soon for WWE as well. Another note that I just saw, I want to mention this before I get off. So TNA took like a month off, like literally just off season, took a month off after Bound for Glory. They're like, hey, let's take a month off. Literally, like, I didn't know that wrestling companies took any time off, but they took a month off. Oh yeah, if you guys didn't see, Joe Hendry is now on the WWE NXT roster. He is now signed with WWE. That's everywhere. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was Sky Blue, guys. Sky Blue was looking like that within the first couple minutes of the match. Yeah. So this is what I saw. So they had Um, basically, they have Impact. Here, I think it was tonight or earlier tonight. So they had TNA Impact. Santana's the champ. He just won it Bound for Glory. They don't, like I said, they haven't done a TNA show in a month. They come back for their first like night after a month off, and Frankie Kazarian, I think, turned in his I forget what they called it, but basically it gave him a title shot, and he turned in his chance to get a title shot and ended up winning the TNA title from Santana. Months and months of building up Santana to overcome Trick Williams and beat his ass and be the face of TNA, and they just all of a sudden swerved to Frankie Kazarian, who, yeah, I just don't understand. Then I guess they're having a bunch of NXT guys come in and beat the shit out of a bunch of TNA guys. I don't know what they're doing with that either. Like that's the whole thing. It's a bunch of random names. Like we're talking like Charlie Dempsey, Lexus King, the High Rise Tag Team, and a few random others. I don't know what kind of booking decisions going on here in TNA, but it just made no sense. And I'm looking to investigate and see what's up, because when's the next TNA show? All right, yeah. So TNA's next show is Turning Point, and that is actually later tonight. So yeah, so they had Impact Live for the first time in a while. And I think part of the reason that they took a month off is that they are now doing TNA like um they're doing TNA Impact like TV tapings at different places. They're traveling now. They're not basing themselves out of Edmonton anymore. They're literally doing some traveling and doing TV tapings. Um so yeah. Um I just found it crazy that they just went ahead and took the title off Santana. Like that makes no sense. But I will watch TNA wrestling over the weekend at some point. I will talk about TNA wrestling because there hasn't been that much to talk about. Like I said, they took a month off. Like, and there hasn't been a whole lot of TNA wrestling coming in NXT either. It's been mostly NXT. So like, and yeah, I don't know. So we'll probably check that out and we'll talk about it here in time to come. But anyways, thanks for checking out the videos. If you guys enjoyed the content, please subscribe to YouTube here. If you want to check out some other awesome content that I stream on Twitch all the time. Board games, video games. We talk pro wrestling. We talk football. We talk basketball. We talk life. We talk everything. We it's a fun time, and it's open book. Glad I'm always glad to have people in there who want to just chill and feel like they're comfortable being themselves, and that's the whole point of why I do what I do. I like to give people a chance of respite. um but anyways, I'm gonna relax myself, and yeah, hopefully everybody enjoys the weekend coming up. And if I don't see the usual audience, my usual community around, care yourselves, and be safe. We'll have another video before the holiday, so I won't wish you a happy holiday yet, but if I don't see you till then, enjoy Turkey Day. Take care, guys.